Okay, so I've filled in most of my shape. Just going to show you the last little bit. We've got a little gap here, so we're just going to go and fill in the last little line here. And you might feel when it gets to a tighter gap like this that it'll be harder to punch the needle through because the fabric's kind of got tighter, but that's fine. So pull out your needle, chop it off. And we're going to turn it round and see what it looks like. Okay, so you're probably going to see some little stitches that are higher than the others, and this is most likely going to be where you've got a tail at the back. So what you're going to do is just grab the tail, make sure you're looking at the front, and pull it back into line with the other pieces. I find this bit really satisfying. So pull them both back in, then just have a look and see if there's any gaps. There's a slight gap here which I can see, so I'm just gonna turn it over, see if I can see where that is. Yeah, it's quite obvious, I've just missed a little bit there. So you're just going to punch a couple of stitches in there. Ideally you want to always do 3 stitches so they're nice and firmly in place. They kind of loop together and obviously pull each other and help it stay in place. If there's really not room for 3 stitches, then don't worry too much because we're going to be gluing the back at the end. When you make an actual piece, you'll glue it at the end. We won't do it on this practice piece, but you will if you make a whole piece or one of my designs, so don't worry too much. But if you can fit 3 in, then try and fit 3 in. However, I'll fit 3 in and see what it looks like. You don't want to do too many and it starts to push others out of the way. So again, grab your tail, make sure it's the right one. See this stitch here, and put it back in place. And there you go, that's your first section done. So then we're going to move on to the heart shape here. And I think I'm going to start at the bottom there. Make sure your thread is nice and loose. And just punch the outside line again. Now another good tip, especially if you're stopping and starting like I just did, I just went and had a little break and have come back to it, it's just to make sure that your surface is nice and clean. Again, especially if you've got small children or pets around, if you've put this away and they've come and put sticky hand or chocolate or goodness knows what on the surface that you're working on, and then obviously it can ruin your fabric, your yarn. When you place it down, the last thing you want to do is get chocolate or something all over it. so it's quite handy to keep checking your surface before you lay your fabric or lay your hoop down on it. My fabric is actually getting slightly more loose than it was, so you can just go around and tighten it up again, or you can just push down with your fingers or thumb just to make the fabric slightly tighter again. So I'm pushing up from the bottom, pushing upwards just to make it slightly tighter, and that just makes it easier for the needle to go through. And like I said before, you can come out here, snip it off and start again, or you can just angle in slightly and carry on. So it's whichever you feel more comfortable with. I mean, the less tails you have, you know, the less of these that you have sticking up, the better really. It makes the embroidery stronger, and it makes less loops that you have to kind of correct at the end. You have to pull back. So I'm going to carry on stitching round and round until we've filled in the whole shape. And you're just making sure that your 2 rows of stitches sit really closely next to each other. Now, if you've watched other punch needle tutorials, you might have seen that some people actually use this side as the front of their pieces, and this is the side they would display, and they would just make sure that the tails were pulled through to the other side. So a lot of people do that, and the loops are on the back, but for all my designs the loops are on the front. I personally think the loops look a lot neater, look very cute, but some people prefer this sort of stitched look, so you can do it that way as well. So we're kind of back where we started, but I'm just going to angle in slightly. It's quite easy with this shape, and just keep stitching until the whole shape is filled in. And this is what I mean about laying the fabric like bricks. Sorry, laying the stitches like bricks. You know, when you're doing a shape and when you're doing stitches as small as these, I don't think it's really possible to kind of keep going with that. Again, you can try and have a go if you like, but especially when you're going round a sort of curve, it's hard to keep the stitches exact. So, like I said, I personally wouldn't worry too much. And just every now and then check on the other side, just check everything's okay. Another good tip is to make sure you're punching kind of directly downwards as opposed to kind of at an angle. If you do it at an angle, there's a chance that you'll catch one of the loops, and then you'll either split it, or you could, you know, pull it further down, and then it will look uneven. So kind of, as much as possible, punch directly downwards so that you don't hit any of the other stitches. Pulled out a bit far there, so I'm just going to gently pull the thread, excuse me, pull the thread back through the needle start punching again. Now if at any point you feel like you're punching and it's not really going through the fabric and you feel like the thread isn't going through easily, then it's most likely because the thread isn't loose. Occasionally you get a little knot in the thread and you won't see it sneak into the needle, and then you'll start punching and you'll realise that the thread isn't moving through, in which case you have to cut it off, pull the needle out and rethread it again. Remembering to always twist the needle in the direction that you want to go. Slightly more of a gap on this side so I can easily turn my needle round and just carry on going. And sometimes you might need to look at the other side and see if you think there's going to be a gap if you don't go in a certain direction. So I'm just trying to work out if I need to go further up that way a little bit. I might just do one more stitch upwards. See if you push the fabric. If you can see that on camera, there's a little bit of a gap. I'll do one more stitch, turn it 180, and then come back down. And then especially when you're filling in the last little bit, like I said about if you think, shall I do 2 stitches or 1, you're probably best to do 2 so that there's not a gap. So I'm just going to fill in this last little bit here. And let's have a look. Okay, there's your little heart. Okay, you can see that's the bit where the tail is at the end. So pull that back through and just check the rest of it is okay. Done. So the last thing I'm going to have a go at is these little circles here, because for some of my designs you need to have a lot of circles, and it's quite a good thing to practice. So the way I think about it when putting in your stitches is, you know, when you were little and you drew flowers, or actually how I still now draw flowers, is you think about, you've got the bit in the middle and then you've got the kind of petals around the outside. So that's how I think about when I do these circles. That's how I think about doing my stitches. Doing the kind of petals on a flower all the way around and then one in the middle. Okay, so let's give that a go. And I'm going to use this smallest one here because that's about the size of the circles on my rainbow design, if you've seen that. So you're going to go around in a circle, so that's 3 I've done, 4, 5, keep spinning the hoop around. I'm just going to go 6, that's back in the hole that we started, and then you're going to do 1 in the middle. Now, if you look on the other side, it won't look much like a circle at the moment, okay, but when you've got the stitches around the edge of it, it will. So let's do another one. Now these circles are actually slightly bigger than some of the ones on my design. So if you need to do more than one stitch in the middle, that's fine, but that's just kind of how I think about them. So this one's going to need more than one stitch in the middle, but that's fine. I'm going to do, sort of keep trying to go in a circular motion. 1, 2, and 3 in the middle. Particularly for those ones in the middle, you might not be moving your needle very much at all. So again, it might not look completely like a circle at this point, but it will in one of the designs when you've got stitches around the outside, it will do. So what I'm going to do is just change colour again so that you can see what these look like when there's stitching around the outside. So I've rethreaded my needle with a different colour, this sort of light grey colour, and we're just going to outline one or two of the circles just so that you can see what it would look like on a finished piece. So we're going to use this circle here, or a little dot rather, and you're going to go close to it again, same as everywhere else. Keep nice and close and just try and go as much in a circle as you can. This is where the tails can be a bit annoying and get in the way, but you just have to keep moving them out of the way a little bit. Finish in the same hole that you started in. Snip off tails, and then you'll be able to see that it will look more like, probably haven't chosen the best colours actually, it looks more like a little dot. Now at this point you can very carefully pull back the thread again so that it's the same length as the rest of them. So I'm just pulling back the pink bits. I think it's going to be this one here, and you can see how that then looks more like a little dot. And then obviously if you carried on and you carried on doing stitches round and round, it would then make that even more precise. So I think that's it for our practice piece. Obviously you can carry on using some of the rest of the fabric and space to practice a little bit more if you want to before moving on to your main design in the kit. So I hope you've learnt something today. I hope it wasn't too painful for you. I've tried my best. Thanks for watching.